Hey Cloud Gamers, Hitman has hit on Stadia, so I'm redoing a comparison here that I previously done with just GeForce NOW and Shadow to include Hitman as well. Starting off with the speed test here, I have GeForce NOW on the left, Shadow PC in the middle, and Google Stadia on the right. You can see that speed of Stadia already kicking in as we hit the loading screens here at 18 seconds on Google Stadia. And Shadow PC not that far behind. GeForce NOW lagging a little bit on starting up that VM. Enter the click to play screen already then at 38 seconds on Google Stadia, but very quickly followed by Shadow PC at 41 seconds. And finally then GeForce NOW hitting that screen at 51 seconds. So still all within under a minute, but Stadia still being the fastest there, albeit only just this time. Moving it over to the graphics. One thing to note here is I am using a MacBook Pro. So I'm using the GeForce NOW Mac client, Shadow PC Mac Streamer, and Google Chrome on Mac for Google Stadia. But straight away we can see that Google Stadia does seem to have a bit of a quality drop here. Not in all aspects, but there is definitely some things that look a bit strange in comparison to GeForce NOW and Shadow PC. That is mostly apparent not on the character models, but on the terrain. As we look back at the fountain here, we kind of have these weird blurry water effects, whereas you see the water droplets on Shadow and GeForce NOW. And also the sky, you don't really see the clouds defined there as you do on the other two. But the range of brightness and contrast on Google Stadia does seem to be somewhat more dynamic. You'll see as we came through there, and the target is moving down the stairs. On Google Stadia, the spotlight is much brighter and there's a bit more of a bloom around the target on the stairs. And also the lights on the characters are a little bit brighter. Even though the gamma is set around the same, Google Stadia does seem to have this kind of wider range of brightness. Something else to note is that although Hitman is free on Epic right now for Shadow and GeForce NOW, or anywhere that you can use Steam, Stadia has the Hitman Collection Complete First Season free on Pro. So you get Hitman 1 and 2 and some kind of earlier editions there as well. Moving on to GeForce NOW just on its own. It's looking very crisp and clear here as we go through the catwalk scene. This is in-game footage. You are controlling the character down here, so this is not a cutscene. There's no stutter here, and it's looking very clean. Makeup on the model here is very crisp. As we walk through here, you can see the pattern on the floor quite clearly, and moving around on the camera there is extremely smooth. We go up the stairs, it's still quite smooth there. As we move to Shadow PC, doing that same catwalk scene. Again, looking very smooth and clean. The debris would show up any of that kind of fuzziness in those frames. Again, looking at the floor of the catwalk there, you can see the kind of the water effect is showing very nicely. Again, the makeup on the character is very clean. The stats on this, it is saying above 70 frames per second, but it does bounce down into below 50s as soon as we come into that terrain. And looking at the floor here, it doesn't seem as well defined as it did on GeForce NOW, but you can still make out that pattern very clearly. And then when we come into the hall here, that adjustment of the dynamic lighting dipping it down to the 30s and 40s frames per second there on Shadow. And you do feel that sometimes moving around. It does feel like going up the stairs is not as smooth as on GeForce Now. But still looking very good. And finally doing the same scene on Google Stadia. It does look like the gamma was a little bit higher, even though in the darker areas Google Stadia does seem to be darker than the others. But we can see that there's a little bit of fuzziness around the character, even though the floor here and the water effects is still looking very crisp. It just seems to be a little bit of fuzziness around the model, especially around the head. It doesn't look as smooth as on the other two. I can't see the frames per second in game, only of the stream. But moving around, it is very smooth on those movements again. There's no stuttering on the camera. You'll see as we come through this section, floor is not quite as well defined as on GeForce Now, but we see those lighting effects, and again we see that kind of dynamic lighting, and you see it looks darker here than it did on Shadow, even though it looked brighter on the catwalk. So there's definitely a bit more of a range on the gamma there. As we go back side by side to do the final target, again we can see it does look a little bit crisper on Shadow PC and GeForce Now, but this could be a limitation of the Mac implementation of H.264 codec on the Mac version of Chrome, which I do find that the Mac version of Chrome does seem to have worse quality than that on PC. And obviously if you're using this on the Chromecast Ultra, then you will have much better quality as well. I should shortly be able to start recording my Chromecast Ultra footage, and I will start doing those as comparisons, as it is definitely a much better experience than on the Mac. So you'll see here, managed to kill the target on GeForce Now and Shadow PC and escape. However, I did mess it up on Google Stadia, which was a bit of a shame after a 25-minute mission to mess it up right at the end. Hitman is definitely worth picking up, and with it being the entire first season on Google Stadia, you definitely get a lot more for your money if you're using that Pro subscription. At least you're getting your money's worth at least. Whereas it's still free to claim until Thursday, 3rd of September on GeForce Now and Shadow PC via the Epic Game Store. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button to stay up to date with all of the latest from Cloud Gaming Extreme across all cloud gaming platforms, and I will see you next time.